Like he's cutting a shani. I guess we did that already. Okay, we started into cutting a shani. And that's on page Shin Lamed Hey. Now over here is something that I needed to know in the notes. Let's see if there's what else there is. So we're getting the flow of the light of Cotton Shani. And we look up above and we see number Kaf Ches. Then he shows you actually the flow going into the Keilim, Kli Panimi, Kli Soy, etc. So you see the Keilim. Then you're going to leave behind the Hashir Sham, the Ranchi, the Chochma. So let's look at what we have here. This is to push the Chosadim down, which comes along with the he says Yekavan lidchos hachesed the netzach. So you're going to push what was in chesed down to netzach. These are these oros. These are the mochim. These are levushim going downwards. Oros and levushim. Shlosha kli chesed, and then here are the three Keilim of chesed. So we're pushing everything down into there. Let me get something to drink to clear my throat. So it says like this. He says, let's look at number. Let's start at the top. I didn't read the notes properly. Number Kof Ches says, L'shlosha Keilim the Chochma the Vok. Now, big question here is what does Vok mean? And you run into a lot. The Chochma the Zah, the Vok or the Chochma the Zah. And so that's where it's going. That's where it's going to those three Keilim. Let's look at number Kof Ches down below. Let me see how I got this here. Okay, it says the Shlosha Keilim, the Chochma, the parts of Chochma, the Vok, the Zah. And the question is here, the Keilim of Chochma, the parts of a Chochma. Okay, and then it says the Vok. The question is, what does Vok mean? I was trying to translate it as somehow the Vok or the Vok, like it says. He says, HaMochin the Katnas Sheni the Chochma. So these Mochin, Katnas Sheni the Chochma, Neknasen the Shlosha HaKeilim the Chochma shall Havok the Zah. So they go into the Vok of Zeranpin, because Zeranpin is a Vok. Shahare Rebechem Mochim the Katnas. They're Mochin the Katnas, Haniknasen the Vok the Zah. They go into the Vok the Zah. The parts of a Chochma are the parts of Chochma. Shehu HaKatnas Sheni, which is Katnas Sheni, that is the Vok of the parts of Chochma. Because Abnu the Vok, what does that phrase mean? Because that's a difficult translation. Al Pi HaGolas Talmidei HaSodeh, so according to the notes that we got from them, he says, HaKavanah Shechamochin De'ima, the Mochin De'ima Nekroim Vok. If you look at them in relationship, Kalape HaMochin De'abach Nekroim Gar. So the Vok of the Vok, so Lechein, HaMochin De'Katnas the B'tzad Ima Nekroim Vok the Vok, Shaharech there the Vok, Shal HaMochin De'ima. They're the Chochma of the Mochin De'ima. That's what he says is the meaning of that. Then we go back down to number Kaf Tes. It's easy reading probably. He says, L'hashir b'sham the Ranchi the Chochma, and then the Ranchi of Chochma is going to remain there. So he says, L'hashir sham, the Ranchi the Chochma. Then after that, let me see, I'm missing the place here. There we go. L'hashir sham the Ranchi the Chochma, v'achar kach yekavan lidchos ha'chesed, so he's saying that chesed and netzach, the way he writes it, is like a combination. The Ranchi im hamochin the chochma. So then the Ranchi, these oros, im hamochin the chochma, together with the mochin the SHAAR b'kli chochma. So he says the Ranchi, those are the oros, and the mochin that cover over them are going to remain behind in chochma. but the Narantki Shel Chesed, which came in also, the Netzach, they go together, Nidchim L'Kli HaChesed. So that's the idea over here. Now we're coming over to the next page. And the next page says, let's see, Lahashir Sham Nerantchi Umoach the Chesed. Now he says the light and the moach, and so he has a mark on the word moach, and we have to see what did it mean. I would say by just looking at it, it means the Nerantchi, which is the oros, and the moach, which is the covering over the oros. But he said, "V'lahashir sham nerantchi umoach dechesed l'tchos hanetzach im shemos hamochim im shemos hamochim l'kli hanetzach." So here are the mochim. Here is the oros. We have this is which is menukad with hirik, and then it goes into the mochim, which is akad, and then also the levush for that is the same name. So it's kind of interesting. Tzlamim v'Keilim, so that represents, he says the last one is Tzlamim v'Keilim. Now why he puts them all together, I'm not sure. Shlosha Kli Netzach, and then it goes into the 3 Keilim of Netzach. We see him on the left side. So maybe we need to look at the Shefa, because there's a Shefa here on this, why we have a double there. He says, number Lamed, he says, V'lahashir sham nerantchi umuch l'chesed, l'tchos ha'netzach im ha'shemas ha'mochim l'kli ha'netzach, and push that down into the kli of netzach. So then we see all of them coming down. The rantchi im ha'mochim l'chesed nisharim l'kli ha'chesed, the remainder. So he said, V'chan the rantchi, the netzach, the dachin l'kli ha'netzach, and that's what happens here. Number Lamed Aleph says, Akadatam, Tzlamim v'Keilim. He puts it all together. So Akadatam, what are we missing? He says it's Tzlamim v'Keilim, so that's Akadatam is the name of the moach, also the name of the levush, of the or did I get that wrong? That last part. Okay, we'll go on. Let's look at number tests. Let's see if there's something I can understand from tests. Number test says, Tzlamim v'Keilim, hine masha kasav kan Keilim. Why does he say Keilim? HAKAVANOT al lelvushim, the mitzad ima, the kavana is on the levush that come from the side of ima. Shalapamim kora lechem gam Keilim, because sometimes the levush is also called Keilim. Why? Because it's connected to the Keilim? Because it's right next to it. Apparently, the Talmidim of the Chasada had explanations on this, different kinds of explanations. Many times they wrote al levusha hamochim, they call them Keilim. So really, this is what's the root of this. Eitz Chaim is over there. Then SHAAR Abba ve'Iba Perek Ches. Keshekasa sham shemos ekya shemekabel zecha me'ima. Okay, so they go together. That Zah gets ekyas from ima. Heim levushim v'Keilim. There, these ekyas really are levush. Now he says we see in other places, but the actual word levush and Keilim go together. Simsha shelavush hamochim yesh lechem shlosha shemos, because the levushim have 3 different names. Sometimes they're called levushim, Tzlamim, and Keilim. Now, is that right? Okay, so he says, again, let me just read this again. He says, Nimsa shel levusha hamochim yesh lechem shlosha shemos. Sometimes they're called levushim, Tzlamim, and Keilim. V'kulam inyan echad. So they're all the same idea. V'dash shlosha shalachein. Because hamshachas hamochim the nook is as mochim are coming into the nook, shenimshach lo chelak hamalchus shall call hamochim, that what comes into her is the malchios of all of the mochim. Now that's a question right there I have, right? The malchus shall call hamochim. The mochim have what, 10 spheros? He wants to say that, or else how's that work? So he parash the malchus shall Keilim shall nigh the ima. So he says what we explain is like this: it's the malchus of the Keilim. Now the Keilim, I could see easily that it has 10 spheros. Shall nai de'ima, that have to do with the nai de'ima. It's the malchios of those Keilim. Look at Moshe Kosev Haradam. Who's the Radam? I don't know.
David Majar.
Majar. Okay, David Majar, thank you. B'hakdamas HaSiddur, in the beginning of his Siddur, Malchios Shal HaKeilim, where he talks about the Malchios of the Keilim. The Eshech of the Farish HAKAVANOT al Malchios Shal HaKeilim Dezah, we're not talking about the Malchios of the Keilim Dezah. Why not? Because she doesn't get from the Keilim Dezah. What does she get? But she has her own Keilim. So the Keilim is the final product, so that we're trying to fit the ore into the Keilim. So therefore, you have to say Hakavana al Malchios shal lelvushi nai de'ima shenikroim Keilim. Okay, it's a complicated set of language, and so we have to understand. So he just told us also something, a little secret here. He told us that sometimes these words are all used together. So let's go to Gad L'Sheni on page Shin Lamed Daled as we're moving along here. So he says, well, I guess we could just look at the Oros. You have the Oros of Chochmah, all the way down to Netzach. So that's what you're seeing here. So he says the blurb at the top says, Hachan de Makifi mem the Gadlus Sheni de'ima. Number Lamed Gimel says Hachan de Makifi Lamed the Gadlus Sheni de'ima. And then we're going to go to the next page. Let me just see. And he's going to do the Tzani. So this is the entrance of the Oros of Gadlus Sheni. So Hachan the Makifi mem the Gadlus Sheni. So the Hachan, that's the right line of the Makifim. Now, so he's dealing with the right line. It's the Chochmah line. So Hachan the Makifi mem the Gadlus Sheni de'ima. So he says Ata now. Ma'amshichin as a mochin the Gadlus Sheni de B'tzad Ima, that are coming from the side of Ima chanim shochim al yedecha b'miras hakedesh, which come as when you start to say the Kedesh. B'tachida ma'amshichin as makiv mem detzalim. Shehu mekach ba de Ima, which comes from the top part of Ima. So as we know. Then it says number Lamed Gimel. We're going to do the Vakipi Lamed the Gadlus. Achar kach ma'amshichin as Lamed the Tzelem shel hagadlus Sheni the Mitzad Ima shehu mechagat the Ima. So this we understand from other places what goes on there. So since we did the Lamed and the Mem, so we're going to do the Tzaddik. So once again, if you look at the drawing has the three Oros. There's three. I call them sets of Oros. There's 6 of them. What are 8 of them? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How is that possible? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there is a 7th one. So Mochin the Penimim. He says that these are the Mochin Penimim. Number Lamed Daled. I'll look at it. Hachan the Tzadi the Gadlus Sheni the Ima. Mochin Penimim. These are the inner Mochin. I'm just trying to think, how does it add up? 1, 2, 3, and then there's I don't know, it's just not adding up for me. So let's go, I was assuming there was 6. Should be Chochmah, then Chesed, and then it should be Netzach. But at the end, okay, that's what it is, I guess. So he says, these are the Mochin. Next are the Levushim, or the Tzlamim, the Keilim, which we said we have 3 names for that. It could be Levushim, Tzlamim, the Keilim. Then he says, and he shows you number Lamed Vav. He shows it that way. So then he says Lamed Zayin says L'shlosha Keilim the Chochmah the Vok the Kachpat. Once again, we got this word Vok in here. Vok always refers to kindness. I know that. The Chochmah the Zah. So I think I know that. So let's see the Kli Panimi. So he shows you the Kli Panimi, the Kli Msoy, and the Kli Chitzon. That's the drawing. That's all that's coming in. Let's look at number Lamed Daled. Hachan the Tzadi the Godless. The right line. Each one of these he's saying he's saying the oros themselves. That is the tzadi that goes in, is going to have Hachan the tzadi the gadlus sheni the ima penimi. Achakach ma'avshivim, and we know that the tzadi refers to penimius. V'achakach ma'amshichim as hamochim penimim shal gadlus sheni the betzad ima. Then we bring this. Shehu menai the ima. It's coming from the nai of ima, the lowest part. Vuha nikra tzadi tetzal. Number Lamches, Yud K Vav K. He shows you this. Where is Yud K? Yud K Vav K. That's the Moach. Mochin. Okay, so far. Sham Sam Moach HaChochma Sham. Moach HaChochma Hu Havaya b'Milui Yudin is a Havaya with the Milui of Yudin. Shem Av v'Halavushalo Hu Shem Kasa is the name Kasa. So we see this up above. This is the Moach, and this is the Levush of the Moach. So then he says, Milui Yudin, Shem Av. V'Levush Shalo Hu Shem Kasa, Minai the Ima, coming for the Nai of Ima. So all of this is coming for the Nai of Ima. Then he shows you number Lamed Vav, which is the Tzlamim. He says Tzlamim. Let me just read the light print. Tzlamim v'Keilim agavana al lelvushi mochin debetzad ima that are coming from there. Number Lamed Zion. He shows you the three Keilim. L'shlosha Keilim the chochma the vok. So he has the vok in there is what we want to look at. He said the shlosha Keilim the chochma the vok. The kachbad, the chochma, the very top part of the chochma, the zer anpin, that's where they enter into zer anpin. But the chidin ignasim called on the radchi for kol mochin the shlosha kli chochma. The first thing is that they go into the three kelim of chochma. That's again, all in the radchi go into the kelim of chochma. V'hem shlosha chochmos. There are three different chochmas shel hagadlos anikra kochav. I want you to read it again. But the first come in the Rantchi, we call them Mochin, the Shlosha Kliya HaChochma, the three Keilim of Chochma. V'hem Shlosha HaChochmos, there are three different Chochmas, Shel Hagadlos HaNikroim Kochav. So what I was looking at is the use of the word Kochav. He says the Chochmos, Shel Hagadlos HaNikra, there's Shlosha Chochmos. Let's go on. Shaham Shachas Zos, he Lachachma Shal parts of a Kesser, because this is coming from the Chachma, the parts of a Kesser, the Chachma Shal parts of a Chachma to the Chachma, the parts of the Chachma. The Chachma Shal parts of a Bina, and also from there. The Chachma de Zah, all of this is coming out of the Chachma de Zah, but Kevin Shahu Gadlu Sheni, this is a big godless. Harehem shall parts of Chochma HaKlalis the Zeranpin. So therefore they come from the whole parts of Zeranpin. He says the Zah, V'lechem Mamshichin the Kochav the Chochma. So therefore they're going to go to the top part of Chochma. Shehem Shlosha Partsufim, which are three Partsufim, different Partsufim, Abenimim the Chochma, which is on the inside of Chochma. So we're talking about the Tzadi the Tzlamim here. So we're going to be able to put this together. In regards to this phrase, the vok the kochav, shuhu hamochin the ima, which is the vok the kochav. So this refers to the mochin the ima hanikroim vok. Why? So what he's doing is that whenever you have a shefa coming from up above and down below, he could see that he could use the word vok for the part down below, because that's the process coming into the vok and growing it. Who kochav the vok. So what is it? It's the kochav going into, well, it's the kochav of ima. Ima is the vok in this case. V'chakant is the mochin the ima cause of. So we said the continence of the mochin the ima. We said is the vok. This is called the kochav the vok. Okay. Some of the language of the Rashash. Now we come over here, and once again we have two sets of. We see that this is going to get pushed down. That's what he's going to show us. And now we go everything going into Chesed, and then the Kirik for Netzach. Then he shows the levush that's covering over those oros, and he says, well, that's number Lamed Tet. He said not the levush. He says it's the mochin, and then the aleph, the ekia would be the what is it? The covering over the mochin. So what does he call it? He says the Tzlamim, the Keilim. He doesn't say anything about it like he did before. Then it's all going to go to Shlosha Kli HaChesed, and there they are there. Let's look at number Lamed Hey. Lamed Hey says, let's read it up above first. Lamed Hey says, Lahashir Sham Neranki Amochan de Chochma. And then everything is good. The mochin that belong in Chochma and the Neranchi are going to go and stay there. Litchos chesed netzach shlosha kli chesed, and then that's the push that he says everything gets pushed downwards into the shlosha kli chesed is their anpin. Let's take a look at Namar Lamed Hey, Namar Ches. He says, "V'lahashir sham neranchi amochan dechachba the litchos chesed netzach the shlosha kli chesed." This we've seen before. On the ranchi v'hamochin, they're riding together. So he says those two. He says the Neranchi and the Levush. So whatever was there, apparently they're all coming in together. So with the Chesed gets pushed down. Number Lamed Tes, he says Yud Ke Vav Ke. He shows you just the Yud Ke Vav Ke, and then Aleph Ke Yud Ke. So he does. Shem Havaya b'milu yudin. What is that? That's the Mochan Chochma, the B'tzad Ima. Shem Ekia b'milu yudin is levush. Shalo, it's levush. So this is all sliding down into those Keilim. Number Shin Mem. As we're moving through this, he says, Lahashir Sham Neranchi Umuach the Chesed. And once again, he has the word Muach, a different color, or slightly different. Lidchos hanetzach l'shlosha kli netzach. So that's the end of that process. Shlosha kli netzach deza, and he shows it to us. Just to read the blurb at the bottom, just to keep it straightened out, he says, the light print, Haneranchi the chesed SHAAR b'kli hachesed, v'hamochan v'haneranchi the netzach the dachne kli hanetzach. So this is the same pattern. Then he shows you number Mem Aleph, and he shows you the mochin, and the mochim and the Tzlamim and Keilim. He says Tzlamim and Keilim. Shem Havaya b'milu yudin, hu hamuach the chochma the b'tzad ima. Shem Ekia b'milu yudin is the levush shelo. Okay, so other places he called it not just the levush. He called it previously. He had called it the levush, and what else did he call it? He called it the Tzlamim and the Keilim. Levush is in there too. So let's go over here to the next page. He says, I'm going to read this on the top first. Number Membet. He says, Va'ato, now that they've come to this stage, Yikabin lahamshech lenuk the fashos. Got this phrase again. We're going to bring her all the nukvitic aspects and the fashos of misbach of malchus with the mus, the shlosha kelim, the hachan, the chamisha partsufi nai b'chagat, b'kochav the katnas sheni b'gadlu sheni. Some of this is a little bit over my head. So let's say we understand all the aspects of malchus, ending up with the mus. It's going to go to 3 Keilim of the right side of Chochma, the part of the Partsufi of Partsufi 9. Now that's a little bit difficult for me. So he said the Shlosha Keilim, the Chachan, the Chamisha Partsufi Nai. So he says Nai as a Partsuf, or he says has 5 Partsufim in it. V'chaga v'kochov, the Katna Sheni v'gadlu Sheni. So all of that, I'm not sure what it means. So let's look over here and let's see. He has this section right here. So he says, Shavsha v'sidr kasvo katna sheni v'gadlu sheni yachad, even though the sidr, the two of them are taught together at the same time, because we dealt with katna sheni, I thought. The hakel al hamakuvanim, that to make it easier for people who are making the kavana, he locked some what we're dividing them. So first we show shat katna sheni v'achar kacha gadlu sheni. So that's where he says he wants to show us Katna Sheni again because they both come in together, but he says they're two separate elements. In the Siddur it comes in together. So Katna Sheni, he says, Chachan de Mochin Penimim de Tzadi de Katna Sheni, and here he shows it to us. And they go into the Mochin and the Tzlamim, which are Kads. Then he wants to show also Shlosha Keilim Chachma the Vok the Chachma. What's the Vok the Chachma? Which is the Imadika side of Chachma, he said. Here's the 3 Keilim. Let's read the number Membet. Number Bet V'ata Yekavi Lachamshik Lenok Nefashos and Misbar Malchus V'demos Shlosha Keilim the Chacham the Chamisha Partsufi Nai V'chagat V'kocha. The Katnas. Now, did he say Nai v'chagat? Yeah, he did. The Nai Chagat v'kachav, the Katna Sheni v'gadlu Sheni. He writes, Achar shaham shachno es akatlu Sheni v'gadlu Sheni demuach ha'chochma dezah. So now, after we've done this, v'yardo ad hanetzach shabo, they reish netzach, nimshachin amochin lanok. Then that's what all that meant. It meant that they're going to go to the Nook. So we understand that's how it goes. V'nosin the Nook as a malchus shall call bechina or bechina. So therefore the Nook gets all of the malchus of every single bechina. V'chan nefashos shu malchus shall on the ranchi. So the concept of nefashos represents the malchus. He's nefashos shu malchus shall on the ranchi is the malchus of the ranchi. So he said, "Misbar shal Shemos shu malchus shal Shemos atman." I'm not sure what he means by Shemos. Does he mean the names? What names does he mean? Malchus ku chelek malchus, and the malchus of the portion of the malchus shal the Keilim shall nai the ima of the nai of ima. So that's the malchus that's going there. The demuz, what's a demuz? So now you get a definition of demuz. Hu chelek malchus shal Tzlamim. Now, how do we get to that? He means that Tzlamim, all of the oros that are coming from the top, the middle, and the bottom of Ima, or Yisrael Saba, the Tavuna, he says that the Muz is a chelek malchus shal Tzlamim. So then he must be meaning that every Tzelem has 10, can be divided up. So the 10 spheros and the malchus is the last one. Vahem niknasin the shlosha kedim penimim emseim v'chitzonim dehachan shu kav yamim into the right line. So what's the line? They go inside of the Keilim. The Keilim penimim, and it has them inside. It has the middle, inside, middle, and chitzonim. Them. And then he finishes up by the Chamisha Partsufi Nai v'Chagad v'Kachav, of the 3 Partsufim of Nai v'Chagad v'Kachav. So he said the Kav Yamim, the right line we're talking about, goes through those Partsufim, shall call Partsufi HaChochma Denok, the Hainu Shnei Partsufi Nai v'Chagad, the 2 Partsufim which are called Nai v'Chagad, Shehim Partsufi HaKatna Sheni, which is the Partsufim of the Katna Sheni, because Nai and Chagat refers to, Chagat Nai refers to Katnas. But Kochav Shehim Shlosha Partsufi HaGad Sheni. So all of that. Now let's look, we have two pages that look a lot alike. And let's see what they say. So he says, this is the next part. So you moved it down. So now we're going to push the chesed and the netzach into the kli of the chesed and nuk. And here, once again, we have the lights of chesed and netzach, the mochin, and the tzlamim. Now, let me see just something. You see, call this by different names every time. Sometimes he has no name. Mochin and tzlamim, I see at the previous page. And then not mentioned, tzlamim and Keilim, sometimes it's all together. So he says that in a way that could all be looked at the same. So we saw the chiyus of chesed and gevura, chesed and netzach, into the mochin and the tzlamim, shlosh ki chesed the nuk, and then he shows you the three Keilim. The lahashir sham the ranki mochin the chesed with the chos tzalim the shlosh kli netzach, and he shows you coming down there again. And then he throws the shlosha kli netzach the nuk, and ultimately that's where they go, into the kli of the nuk. Let's go to the next page. The next page is God L'Sheni. That was what? The hashiv l'chos. That was leave behind. Now here comes God L'Sheni. So we have here the chokhmah, chesed, and netzach. And going into these Keilim, into the mochin, these are the mochin, and the tzlamim, or he calls them by a different name, lelvushim, are the Keilim. So he said, v'lishlosha Keilim the chokhmah, the vok the chokhmah. Now once again we have this word vok the chokhmah. So he says what, he say, he always said the that's a little hard for me. Let's see, is he going to say anything about that? See the vok, which was the mochin of Ima, in relationship to the mochin of Abba in terms of continence. So he's, I think, Kli Panimi, here's the Keilim, the Lahashir Sham mochin the Chokhmah, to leave behind there the mochin of Chokhmah, of L'chos Chesed and Netzach L'Kli HaChesed, to bring them all down. Shlosha Kli Chesed, looking like that. L'Hashir Sham, they go turn the page again to remain besides there. L'Hashir Sham the Ranchi and Mochin the Chesed, so we leave behind there, then the Ranchi and the Mochin the Chesed, L'chos and Netzach the Shlosha Kli Netzach the Nuk. And this is where it's going. And here is the netzach. These are the mochim and the levushim. And then he says shlosha kli netzach the nuk, and he shows you the Keilim. Number mem gimel, he has a mem gimel. He says b'tzarek l'kaven kol hanizka b'shlosha b'lakichas hakos b'shtika. So he says that's an important idea, that when you take the kos, don't talk. Elishahu bebechinas or panimi, but it's actually the concept of the or panimi. Velachso velakabe bediver shel habrachos. So therefore, we want to concentrate on the actual velakabe bediver shel habrachos v'kiddush bebechinas or makif, which is the aspect of the or makif. He called masha yesh bepanimi. Yesh b'makif, because everything that there is in the Benimi, there is in the makif. So let's see what number mem bet says, and we'll try to finish this up here. Yizachavitzar l'kavein kol hanizka b'lekichas hakos elishuchu b'bechinis or Benimi. B'lachsa v'lakavein b'dibach b'shel brachos v'lekidei b'bechinis or makif. But when you say, you have to start saying something that is the bracha itself, the kiddush. There you're dealing with the makif. Why? Ki kol masha yesh b'penimi yesh b'makif. They have the same rule. Kol hamochin shenim shekuch b'ada. So all of the mochin that are extended or flow down until now, b'lekichas hakos, when you take the cup. That's all that we've been talking about here up to this time. Shehem hamochim the godless rishon, shekavar niknas bekedushas hayon that already came in. V'kat l'sheni, v'gad l'sheni, all of this, kulam heim rak bebechinas or panimi, they're all or panimi, dihine, yadua haklal, shekal mitzvah shuhu b'maisa, hu bebechinas or panimi, v'kal mitzvah b'dibor, hu bebechinas or maki. The fees then, according to that then, nimsa shebekichas akos, that when you take the kasher shuhu mitzvah b'maisa, it's a mitzvah where you actually do something. One second. Mamshichin mochin shel or panimi, you're really talking about the hamshacha of more of or, the or panimi, which is the tzaddik itself. But now when you're saying kiddush, shul mitzvahs b'dibur, shul b'bechinas or makiv, kavin od pam have another kavana, pam, as kol hakavanos and iskarim la'el, all the kavanos we mentioned, she'antach and nimshachin kol hamochim ha'ele bebechinas or makiv, because everything is coming down in the aspect of the or makiv. And this is Yosaba speaking at the Tikkun elevator kolo, going through the RASHASH.